Comrades and friends, I pay my respect to elders past and present and emerging, and also to all the comrades of past that put the work in, the time in, the tears in, to get us where we are. I pay respect and admiration to the wives and women that were the blood and guts behind us, because we would have never, ever won any strikes, any stoppages, because they had to put the food on the table and they had to look after the kids when we were only getting $40.40 a week. Comrades and friends, I'm not here to talk about the MUA and the conditions, because I've listened for the last few days, and I don't need to go to a specialist for the next couple of months, because this is better than going to a specialist. This is better than any injection that they can give me, because this has bred life into me again. First of all, comrades, I want to thank Paddy Crumlin too. There would be no veterans without his support. Let's make that clear. There would be no veterans without Paddy's support. He's never once questioned if I had to fly somewhere, sometimes twice. He's always been there when I've had to send in the last 2.5 years, Woodsy over, who's going to take over from me. This is my last conference that I'll be coming to. I'm finishing up in February next year. But I'm here to talk about the retired people of this country and the attacks on the retired people of this country. But before I do, I want to salute Jimmy Donovan, who was the president till yesterday. And Jimmy Donovan was a fighter. He was the branch secretary of Sydney. And what a tremendous fighter he was, and what an inspiration to the movement he was. Unfortunately, Jimmy is ill. And like all of us, when we get to a stage in our life, we become ill, we can't function the way we should, and we have to step aside. So that's just the hard luck of life. But Jimmy is a great man and a great mate. But I want to ask the question that no one in the Labor Party's been able to answer me. I'm not going to walk away from here without addressing the concerns of the retired people of this country. Why are we paying $34 million a day to an industry that is about destruction? You tell me, why? Why do we need submarines, nuclear submarines, when there isn't a nuclear industry, when there isn't a place when there isn't a place for the nuclear waste? Why do we need nuclear submarines at all? Why do we have to spend $368 billion in 30 years' time to get gear up that's antique, when they've got satellites up there that can see you scratching your nose when you're out in the street? So let's be fair dinkum. We've got the machinery to wipe the world out. We don't need wars of any type, because it's all about greed and need, but mostly greed and power. So at the end of the day, the retired movement is suffering, because can you imagine that $34 million per day, what it would do to the 4.2 million people in this country that are living under semi-poverty or poverty, or the 1 in 6 kids that don't get a feed overnight? Is that right? Of course it's not right. And this is what our government should be looking at, because we put this government into place on the social issues, not on war issues. And it wasn't him that went up there and done it. It was that mongrel that just left, that had 5 positions in his own phony cabinets. So, unfortunately, we should have turned our back on it. But I don't know what happened on the way. Maybe we'll get an answer one day, and I hope I'm alive to hear that. Pensions. Comrades, we've only just got pittance because the pension system in this country is threefold. The super, which you can be glad that you're getting, that the union movement's fought for. And the second one is part pension and part super. But the ones that are suffering is only on pensions when they have to pay $450 a week to the real estate agents because of greed. That is absolutely wrong. It has to be regulated, that industry. Housing, which was discussed today upstairs, one of the most crucial ones. You've got families, mothers and kids sleeping in cars. Is that right? Of course it's not right. And we have to address that. And this union, this is the union that helps us because we're out there on the streets and we're out there fighting for the conditions of those people. And it's only a strong union like the MUA that can assist us because the conditions that you get have to become a flow through to the social service conditions that we're living with. Comrades and friends, I'm not here and I'm not going to whinge or carry on. I'm just trying to let you know exactly what is real out there. When you're earning good wages and you go home and you shut the door and you forget. But when you go down the street and you find out that your neighbour who's elderly has just nicked themselves, or some kid that you've seen grow up has nicked themselves, you ask yourself, why? Why is this happening on a great scale? I spoke to my doctor about this and he said we don't even put it down as suicide because there's such a great number. It's on the increase. Society's been pressured. We talk about the cashless society. You know, the banks, look at the profits, 19.4% in the last 6 months. They're laughing all the way to their shareholders. We're the shareholders and we've got to start dictating about it. The same as our shipping line. We should have had that shipping line. Should have never got rid of the A&L because there was a component for it around the coast. Maybe not the deep sea. Look at the price of goods in the shops. They're just bloody ripping us off. You go to Woolies, you pay $10.40 for a bulk of butter. You go to Elders and you get it for $6.40, $4 difference. A rip-off. A rip-off. And I keep telling them, you're ripping us off. If I stuck a gun in your face, you'd call the cops. But you're sticking a gun in my face every day. So you can see. But I take great admiration in the younger generation in this organisation because you've got challenges. And listening to Doug and the challenges and listening to Paddy and the rest of you that get up here, this challenge is not just nationwide in Australia. This challenge is international because the international mongrels, the corporates that want to control us day and night, some of those pensioners can't even afford to get buried because those funeral directors are saying, get the money before the tears dry. That's the sort of attitude we got. I live in a small town. I was lucky enough that I was in a super fund where I could drag out $6,000 when my wife passed away. But if I wouldn't have been in that, I would have had nothing. And I remember the days, not too long ago, when our elder members walked down that gangway with the pay that they had and nothing else. So we've come a long, long way. And I'm so proud to be MUA. Comrades, I'm going to finish up by saying this to you. I got fire in my guts and I got fire in my soul. I might be crippled, but I'll go. And what I'll say is this, we might be retired from the workplace, but we'll never retire from the struggle.